Hey, what's going on, everybody? Just wanted to jump on real quick and share a few insights from something that I experienced today, and just really what it activated in me. And right here in the background, you see a famous quote by Carl Jung that said, Carl Jung, it says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that came to mind, and I'm going to tie it in here in a second. I'm going to correlate it with a passage from one of my favorite authors, Frederick Dodson. This is not the book that I made the video on yesterday. This is another book called Reality Creation and Manifest, and I definitely highly recommend both. They are both like 700 or 800 page books that are like full master classes or courses on manifestation, more so reality creation, parallel universes, and viewpoints. It's just more than just manifesting things. It's about changing your whole reality. I highly recommend them. Like I said, the books within themselves are whole courses on reality creation, but then you have every chapter, then you have every paragraph. It's like it's so loaded and it's so layered. So I highly recommend. But this passage right here, this paragraph, this page says that the key to using rituals for success is to have new default patterns. A default pattern is something you do in times you don't know what to do. A default pattern is your subconscious or effortless response to difficulty. Some people respond to difficulty by taking drugs, watching TV, overeating, or chit-chatting. What if your default pattern of responding to difficulty were to meditate, increase your love, or work productively? Early on, I programmed myself to write every time I did not know what to do. Don't know what to do? Write. So my default pattern of responding to emptiness was to do something that will later spell success for me. It says that habits are easier to change if you ritualize them and repeat them successively. The word success is linked to successive, which is to repeat a pattern of behavior again and again. So when I tie in those two, the first quote by Carl Jung said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That ties in because here he says that our default pattern is something that we do in times that we know not what to do, and it's subconscious and it's effortless, but it's beneath the surface and it is automatic, and so it is running in the background without our conscious awareness. And so it seems like when life happens and we respond or react to it, we seem like that it's out of our control. And so our default set pattern is to go into frustration or depression or worry, fear, anxiety, or whatever our program or template that we have been programmed with up until this point. And something that I learned this week from, I forgot what the book was called, but it said that everything that has happened to us up to this point may not be our fault, but it's our responsibility. And so what that means is that a lot of the programs that we have was passed down to us through the DNA and through blood, and it's just like through collectively. Globally, it's been passed and programmed to us. Then we have media. We have so many factors outside of our control as to why we have the programs or why we feel the way we feel or think the way that we think, which was outside of our control. So that aspect of it was not our fault, but it is our responsibility, fortunately, unfortunately, to deal with it, get to the root of it, root it out, and to implant and program new programs. That is our responsibility, regardless if we had anything to do consciously or unconsciously with why we are the way we are today. And so with that being said, I thought that was very interesting because a lot of the times we feel like we just got bad juju or bad luck or just cursed, or the path that we have been on up until this point, the way things have been, they will always be that way, and it's outside of our control. So that's where he said that we will call it fate. And then Frederick Dodson said that It's our default pattern that's subconscious and it's effortless. It's a response. It's more so of a reaction because we are reacting from a posture of being a victim. We're thinking that we have no authority or no power to change anything or do anything outside of what we've always done and how we've always reacted to the same things that always happen. It seems like a perpetual Groundhog's Day that will never end, and so we seek for sources outside of ourselves to get us out, and then when they don't work or we get temporary results, and only to fall back into the same repeated cycles and patterns. It's just like we fall and feel even worse and a deeper depression that we did before. It's just like one helpless cycle or negative feedback loop. And so I found myself drifting into that today, long story short. And the thing is that once I realized, looking at it in hindsight, the first indicator was that I stepped out of the present moment because I began to project and think about things that had nothing to do with today or even this moment. But my mind was all the way in next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday in anticipation of some bills and financial obligations that I have coming up, and just thinking about my current financial situation and what I have on hand or lack thereof, and what I am projected to have just based off of my current work situation and finances. And it was just like I began to become anxious and fretful, and then that turned into like a despair and helplessness, and then there was a frustration, and I just found myself just quickly spiraling down. And then then afterwards, like I said, in hindsight, I was thinking like, well, the first indicator that I was off track is that I was outside of the moment. And scripture, for whatever it's worth to you, not from a dogmatic perspective, but the first thing that scripture tells us, well, one of the main things is that take no thought for tomorrow. And so the only moment that we have is now. And when tomorrow comes, it'll be right now. It's the present moment. And so I was projecting my awareness into something that had not even came up yet. But the thing about our authority is that even if that's not the case, if we come into agreement with it, then it will be the case. We'll make it be, and we kind of decree. But the thing is, it's subconsciously, and unconsciously, because if you think about it from a sober perspective, why would we in our right mind continue to perpetuate circumstances and cycles that don't benefit us and don't feel good? That's how you know that it is something subconscious, and it feels like it's beyond our control, but it's really just beneath the surface. And so what I found is that, going back to this paragraph, Frederick Dodson, he was saying pretty much to change our default set pattern. And so what it is that we want to install new habits through repetition until they become not only second but first nature, into where they kind of kick in on their own. Just like how our default reaction patterns kick in on their own, we want to do it, but we want to leverage it for our benefit. And so I was like, well, what can I do? How can I begin to install new habits to that will kick in once those triggers come that will work to my benefit? And what the three things I came up with was to write. I actually took that from him, but the thing is, I am a writer, and journaling and scripting is like my number one go-to method for manifesting and reality creation. I just love to write. And so one thing is, well, when I begin to feel that way, or these things start to try to trigger, the first thing I need to do is write. And then the second thing that came to me was to rest. The scripture says to be still, know that I am God. And it also says that we labor to enter into rest. And so I was like, well, I need to use those triggers as a catalyst for me to begin to get into my meditation protocols, things that will calm me down and take my awareness off what I don't want it on, and to get into a neutral place, and then begin to place my intention and awareness on things that I do want. And the third thing that I came up with that I want to start installing into my subconscious program is to create. It's to be a creator. It's to use those moments where I feel disempowered or as a victim, and to flip the switch and to realize that I am a creator. And that's the thing, is we're always creating. The thing is, though, we are leveraging it against us and not for us. And so we want to become aware. And that's what I was saying about our default pattern, that is it's automatic. And so it's something that we do without even having to think about it. And so when we react negatively to circumstances and stimuli, we're just recreating the same thing that we've always created because of our reaction, as opposed to being conscious and aware, taking a step back from the situation and intentionally and consciously deciding how it is we want to respond or what posture we want to take. And that's what I found myself when I was having those disempowering thoughts. It was coming from a place of a victim and life happening to me and woe is me, and responding or reacting how I always did, and from a place of scarcity or lack of resources, or like I said, a victim mentality, as opposed to the reality is that I have a choice. And that's what we have to realize. That's what authority is really the ability to choose. And a lot of times when we get stuck in default unconscious default patterns or self-sabotage mechanisms or negative feedback loops, we don't feel like we have a choice, because we feel, like I said, subconscious. And like Carl Jung said, he said it is unconscious, and it will feel like it's directing our lives, and we will call it fate. And so it kind of feels inevitable. We don't feel like we have a choice or a say in the matter. But the reality is that we do. And so for me, I want to use those times, like I said, as a catalyst. I want to use those triggers for me to take a step back, for me to change my posture, for me to become aware of the posture that I really have, which is I do have a choice, that things don't have to be the way that they were or have always been, because I can choose my real-time response in this moment from a place of sobriety and conscious awareness, as opposed to subconsciously, unconsciously reacting to circumstances as I used to. And it's really just countering the lies that you have told yourself or believed, and countering them with the truth. Like, you do have a choice in the matter. We're not limited to the way things that have always been, or the same resources, or the same circumstances, or we're not at the mercy. We're not victims. We have a choice. We have a power. We have authority. There are limitless possibilities and ways and scenarios that a thing can go, and all of these other things. And the thing is that a lot of times when we think about law of attraction, law of assumption, manifesting, and reality creation, yes, we think of magical thinking. We in a way that is marketed, it really doesn't help matters. We can get temporary results, or we can affect change, and we can get things quickly, seemingly out of thin air sometimes. But it's kind of like luck of a draw. It's like the roll of a dice. Most times it won't work, and the few times it do work, we never really know. And so it's not really something that can rely on. So that I said all that to say is that there really is real work involved when we talking about reality creation, because we don't want a band-aid or a temporary fix. Even though a lot of times crises and circumstances and things that come about, we definitely want a quick answer, because of whatever that is happening in our life, or whatever it is that we desire at that moment is highly important to us. And so definitely we'll accept a quick fix because we want answers now. But ultimately, it's just a band-aid. It's short-lived, and like I said, it's not really reliable, because sometimes it will work, but most times it won't, and you kind of really don't determine that or have a say. And so it causes a lot of frustration and a lot of uncertainty. And so there is real work that's involved in reality creation. It's an unpopular truth. A lot of people don't want to tell you the truth because it does not sell. It's not a catchy headline, and it won't. Their courses and books and coaching programs and things won't fly off the shelf if they really told you the truth, but that's really the truth. And so we have to get to the point to where, like I said, if we're talking about habits and rituals and default patterns, we're talking about something that's been developed over time. And so it's not a quick fix, and it's not overnight. So it's going to take conscious and intentional work habitually. It's going to take intensity and fervor, more so consistency, and which is going to compound over time. And the time is not as long as actually we think it will be, but it's also not as short as we would want it to be. But it does take real work, but it's definitely worthwhile. And as we begin to take authority and control over our thoughts, over our feelings, over our actions, really begin to reel that in, and then we will begin to exert authority and power and dominion in our outward circumstances. But it's not going to come before taking authority and learning how to leverage our mind, change our thoughts, change the way we use our leverage and utilize our mind, so that it will stop working against us and start working for us, because our mind is not our enemies. It's actually a beautiful, beautiful gift and mechanism that we've been given to exert the authority and dominion of source in this earthly realm. But just like they say, money makes a terrible, horrible master, but a great servant. The same thing can be said about our brain. It's not our enemy against us, but it's not meant to rule over us. We are meant to rule over it and use it for the mechanism that it was created for, and it was for our benefit. And so hopefully, I hope you guys got something out of this of value. Hope I didn't rant too long. Hopefully my thoughts were coherent enough to where you can glean something from it. Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like it and would like more content along these lines. Until next time, peace.